Listen!
Welcome everyone, this is Andre's Restart, and Metroid Prime 4 is definitely a cross-gen title. I feel really confident about saying that now after having watched the Nintendo Direct this morning. The Nintendo Direct is definitely divisive for a lot of people. I'll be talking about different elements of the Direct over the next coming days, but the main point I want to make today is that Metroid Prime 4 will be a cross-generation title for the Nintendo Switch 2. It'll still come out for Switch, but it'll also come out for Switch 2 at the same time later into 2024, and that's what I would like to talk about today. But before going forward, let me point out that we are aiming to hit 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So if you do enjoy my content, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. With your help, it just might be possible. So, going into this Nintendo Direct, I was definitely hesitant to believe Metroid Prime 4 would be there. I was hoping, I was praying, I definitely wanted to see a teaser, but even watching my different videos and live streams, I've definitely been concerned and cautious of it being there because we've been burned so many times and Nintendo's just been so quiet about this. And ultimately my take going into this Direct was what they would show for Metroid would kind of showcase their plan for 2024 regarding Metroid. So what I mean is, had Nintendo showcased Metroid Prime 4 in this Direct and said like it's coming out spring or summer of 2024, I would have believed, oh okay, Metroid Prime 4 is coming out for Nintendo Switch first, and they'll have maybe some sort of graphics patch later on for Switch 2. That's what I would have thought if that's what would have happened. If they would have teased Prime 4 for maybe 30-ish to 45 seconds and just gave like a 2024 timing, I still would have thought that probably Prime 4 would be a cross-gen title. But by Nintendo not showing it at all, to me, what that suggests is that it's absolutely a cross-gen title, and it will be pivotal in the Switch 2 marketing. And in order to maybe understand this better, at least my perspective of it, I think I should make clear what my perspective is on Switch 2. And what my perspective is on Switch 2 is that reportedly, it's coming out in the second half of 2024 by Eurogamer and Video Games Chronicle, and even more recently, some information suggesting it could come out a bit sooner than expected, which maybe means still the second half of 2024, but maybe closer to summer as opposed to fall, or maybe even slightly before the second half. These are possibilities, and with the rumors coming from Gamescom about the March month being an important time for the Switch 2, my expectation is that at the latest, Nintendo Switch 2 will be announced this upcoming March 2024. So I think Switch 2 is definitely around the corner. I think we're maybe even less than a year away from it being out available for us to use and play. And with that in mind, if Nintendo's not showcasing Prime 4 here at this stage, and if Prime 4 is supposed to be a 2024 title, as a lot of rumors have suggested, and even from what I've heard that Prime 4 has been done since early this year, what that tells me is that Nintendo's saving Prime 4 for the promotion of Nintendo Switch 2, and it's going to be a cross-gen title. We've recently heard that there are tech demos for Nintendo Switch 2. We've heard that there's a tech demo for Breath of the Wild of it running at 4K 60 frames per second with virtually no load times. We've heard of an Unreal Engine 5 demo, the Matrix one, where it's running Unreal Engine 5 in some ways better than PS5 and Xbox Series X, mainly because it's showcasing a great deal of ray tracing, implying maybe DLSS 3.5, which upscales ray tracing, and that means vastly improved lighting. And this also suggests that there will just be DLSS across the board to improve resolution on Switch 2, and possibly suggests, we don't know about this part, DLSS 3.1, which would include frame generation, so we could see games running at higher frame rates potentially. Even if that's not there, what we're seeing with DLSS and all that, that can still help to improve frame rate. But the ultimate point here is that all of these things suggest the Switch 2 is going to be significant in terms of a power leap over Switch 1. I'm not saying it's going to be as powerful as PS5 or Series X, but thanks to the varying effects of DLSS and a modern feature set, we're going to see some vastly improved games on Switch 2. It's going to be comparable to current gen games, and Nintendo games are going to look and run a lot better. If Nintendo can get Breath of the Wild to run at 4K 60 with no load times basically, what can they do for Metroid Prime 4 that's maybe more customized for Switch 2? We don't know that, but if they're not even showing it off for Switch, I think that does imply that maybe they've known for a long time that they want Metroid Prime 4 to be a Switch 2 title. I still think Metroid Prime 4 is going to come out on the Nintendo Switch 1, the original Switch. I still think it will come. It was announced initially for Nintendo Switch. It's been listed for Switch all these years. There's a lot of people who own a Nintendo Switch. That's a lot of potential sales. When you look at Metroid Prime Remastered and how great of a game that is, how it looks and how it runs, how it's one of the most impressive Switch games, I absolutely think that Retro Studios can get Metroid Prime 4 to look and run pretty good on the Nintendo Switch. But I also absolutely think that there is a better version of Metroid Prime 4 that's being positioned for Nintendo Switch 2, a 4K version with ray tracing. That's what I think Metroid Prime 4 is going to be on Switch 2. I think it's going to be a big deal, and I think it's going to be a part of the launch window for Nintendo Switch 2. I don't think it's going to be a day one launch title, so when I say cross-gen, I don't mean like Breath of the Wild or Twilight Princess where it was the day one launch title for the respective new generation systems. I think that's going to go to 3D Mario, but say Nintendo Switch 2 comes out August or September of 2024, a month or two later, say maybe by October, I could see Metroid Prime 4 coming out as a cross-gen title for Switch and obviously Switch 2. So that's what I think is the plan for Metroid Prime 4. I think we're probably not going to see Prime 4 until early next year as a part of some sort of big event that showcases Switch 2, and that's when they'll start to detail things. And when you think about how we've waited so long to see Metroid Prime 4, it's very similar to the Twilight Princess and Breath of the Wild situations, where these games were big games that we are waiting for information on throughout the respective old generation systems, and it took so long that we came to the end of the GameCube generation and the Wii U generation that Twilight Princess had to come out as a launch title for the Nintendo Wii, still also for GameCube, and Breath of the Wild had to come out for Nintendo Switch, but still also Wii U as cross-gen titles. It's very similar to the Prime 4 situation. The only difference is, yes, Zelda in general has more sales potential than Metroid, but I think it should be noted that before Breath of the Wild, Zelda wasn't a 10 million seller, a 20 million seller, a 30 million seller. The best-selling Zelda game was around 7 or 8 million between Ocarina of Time and Twilight Princess. Like, those were the high points of the series. Metroid Prime probably isn't going to become a 30 million seller, but it could be a much bigger deal than what it is currently. And it coming out early on for the Nintendo Switch 2 could do well for that. They've put so much time into Metroid Prime 4. They announced it in 2017. They announced the restart in the beginning of 2019. That's expensive to do, to have two different efforts to develop this game. They've been hiring a lot of AAA talent over these years. Retro Studios has really been building up their studio here to make this game. This has not been a cheap effort. When Nintendo put out that video back in early 2019, January 2019, the infamous development update, the only time Nintendo's ever done that besides for Metroid Prime is for the Zelda series, when they have to announce a major delay for a major Zelda game like Breath of the Wild. And to me, what this suggests is that they have high expectations for Metroid Prime 4. This is a big project. And from what we've heard from Xbox era, that the game is visually unbelievable, and it has big and vast areas that supports this idea. Nintendo wants this game to do really well. There's a lot of investment here. So I think they're being very careful about this. I think they want it to be part of the big marketing lead up for Nintendo Switch 2. I think they want people to think of Nintendo Switch 2, or rather they want to think of Metroid Prime 4 when they're going to buy Nintendo Switch 2. I think they want to pivot Prime 4 as one of the marquee titles of Switch 2. So I think there is going to be a significantly well-running, good-looking, better-looking version of Prime 4 on the Switch 2 in the launch window. And what this may enable is for evergreen sales, meaning that it will continue to sell for far beyond its initial launch window. And if you look at a lot of games that came out in the first year for Nintendo Switch, a lot of those games haven't enjoyed that evergreen status. Breath of the Wild, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Super Mario Odyssey, but even other titles that wouldn't have necessarily sold really well if they didn't come out in 2017, like Xenoblade Chronicles 2, which released in December of 2017. In the holidays, with a whole bunch of other options, it's still gone to become the best-selling Xenoblade game, and it's still selling a little bit month by month. And Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle, that sold incredibly well because it came out so early on Nintendo Switch. So I think Nintendo, the reason they're so quiet about Metroid Prime 4 right now isn't because the game is doing poorly or it's going to get canceled. It's because they want to focus Prime 4 to be part of the marketing of Switch 2. They want it to come out early on Switch 2 and enjoy strong sales for years to come to make good on their investment of this game, which has been significant. That's what I think is going on here. In terms of the Prime remastered situation, because supposedly Prime 2 is coming soon, Jeff Grubb has good information, but what I think I've noticed about his sources is that the timing is always a little tricky. So I think the Prime 2 situation maybe is an early year announcement, which at this point seems kind of obvious. It's definitely not happening this year, probably, save for maybe like a Game Awards announcement, but I think that's unlikely. So basically, I think the Prime 2 and 3 situations, I still see them coming, but I wonder if they're going to be treated kind of like Pikmin 1 and 2. So we had Pikmin 4 that was about to come out, and the direct prior, they announced Pikmin 1 and 2, kind of basic upscales with some quality of life updates together as a bundle, or you can pay for them separately, I believe, and that was the deal. I think Prime 2 and 3 will have fairly basic remaster upscales with some quality of life updates and come out around the same time each other, probably together, some sort of bundle deal shortly before Prime 4. So we may not even get an announcement for 2 and 3 in the early part of next year. They may be announced maybe in the summer, shortly before Prime 4 is going to come out, or a few months before it's going to come out. That's what I'm kind of seeing for those games. I still think they're going to come, but I think Nintendo's waiting to kind of showcase them during the Prime 4 marketing cycle, not beforehand. I think that's what the last few directs have implied, with it not being shown off in the June direct and the September direct. I think Nintendo's just being quiet about these games. They're saving them for when Prime 4 is getting its big showcase. Because if they were going to be releasing them separately, 2 and 3, in a lead up to Prime 4, which is supposedly coming out in 2024, which I think is pretty likely, I feel like they would have announced 2 by now. I think at this point, 2 and 3 are coming out together. I could be wrong, but that's kind of my take on that. That's what seems to make the most sense to me. Of course, Nintendo does things sometimes that don't seem to make the most sense. But in terms of the Prime 4 situation, I think it actually does make sense. Nintendo's being quiet because they're saving it as a part of the big Switch 2 reveal. And I think we're going to get that early next year, and I'll be talking more about that tomorrow. Anyways, everyone, those are my thoughts on the matter. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. This is Andres Restart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care.